Hi all, welcome to another video, or should I say retro video. This is a BBC microcomputer system from 1983. It was actually launched in 1981, but I managed to pick this one up in 1983. So looking at it head on, it's a small wedge shape. Top left is the power cable, and it's got standard typewriter keyboard, one of the best at the time I thought. Those red keys along the top are user-defined function keys, so you can add commands to each key. Press it and the command is launched. And just left of that, up a bit, is the speaker for the sound. Now the sound was really good on this machine, not as good as the Commodore 64, but good enough. Ideally, I would have liked the sound to have come out the television like the Commodore 64, but that speaker is good enough. Just below that is a cover where a proposed ROM cartridge slot was planned. Now, the case was prepared for that slot, but if you take the computer apart, there's nothing behind it, and I don't think it was ever launched in a different version of this machine. So what I'll do is I'll open it up and you can see the inside, and I'll talk about one or two modifications that I've done to it. Before I open the case up, I thought you'd like to see the back of the machine. So from left to right, there's a couple of monitor outputs. Now the first one is to output to a TV, but that's actually broken off, so I use a cable from video out to a SCART, and it's got RGB, cassette port, RS423 I think is a printer port, analog in, not sure about that. Econet, that's interesting, that allows BBC Micros to be connected to a local network called Econet. So what I'll do is, there's more ports underneath, I'll just move the machine around so you can see underneath. So looking at underneath from left to right, now the tube, that's a port that allows things like a second processor to be connected, which made this a very interesting machine. And I'm sure there's various other peripherals that could connect using that interface. And there's another interface, 1 megahertz bus, that's called. Then a user port, that's the printer port, and then there's a disk drive port, and then just above that to the right is a power output socket. Now at the time I only used the printer port and the disk drive ports. Now the disk drive for this machine was from Cumana, and I've got a twin disk drive, which was useful for games like Elite, because the game disc could go into one drive and then you could save your games to another drive. Quite expensive at the time, but it was really quick. So I'll open up this machine now. Right, so I've opened up the machine. So top left is a power supply, and then below that is the small speaker. Now the modifications that I've done to it, at the time I added, or CJE Micros should I say, a local company, added a Acorn disk interface chip, and in the last few years I got them, yes they're still going, I got CJE to replace the keyboard and the power supply, which is always good practice. You can actually repair the original power supplies, but I thought it was safer just to get a replacement. Now underneath the keyboard is a really interesting interface chip. It allows connection through one of the ports to a SD card, which works a lot faster, more reliable than the disk drives of years gone by. I did actually manage to get a few of my original discs to load on a disk drive and copied to the SD card. So that will make an interesting video for another time. Also, what came with that SD card is all the games and lots of software that was ever released for this version of the BBC Micro. Came with a 6502 processor and 32k of RAM. A lot was taken up by the various graphic modes, so you didn't have a lot of RAM to play with for your programs. But that made programming more challenging in what I consider, and many others, to be the best and fastest 8-bit basic, BBC Basic in other words. And that actually got myself and a few others a career. So I think in the next video I'll demonstrate BBC Basic, the programs that I managed to recover that I created, and a few of the commercial games. So thanks for watching this retro introduction to my BBC Micro, and if you've got any comments, just drop me. So if you've got any questions, just drop me a comment. Thanks for watching.